Hello, Black women. Let's talk about how we mostly saw all the chaos that's currently happening in this country coming, how we can learn to trust ourselves more, even when other people dissuade us from what we know we anticipate and we see, and even when other people are just starting to notice what we've been telling them the whole time, okay? Today's video is geared specifically at Black women. If you're not a Black woman, you can listen, but in the same way that I just watched Tim Whitaker of the New Evangelicals petition to white conservative Christians, I only made it through half the video because poor man is just begging. I don't think he can really wrap his mind around the fact that he was sitting with wolves all them years, but the same way that his audience was there and I was just an observer, if you're here and you're not a Black woman, you're just an observer. Amen. Bless you. This conversation is for Black women, right? It's not about us being right, although we are. It's about us staying rooted, right? In this ridiculous season that we all saw coming. And it's about how we can learn to trust our own wisdom. That's what I want to talk about so that we can still create a life that we love. Mhm. If you're new here, hello, my name is Rushnique Hope, aka Glamazini. I am a content creator. I am a certified life coach, and I help Black women heal, amplify their gifts, and create lives they love that wildly love them back. I am live on YouTube and Facebook today. I didn't go live on LinkedIn. Yesterday, when I was setting it up, I felt a little nuck if you buck. And I was like, I don't know if LinkedIn is ready for that, but it's not like I haven't been nuck if you buck on LinkedIn before. So I'm not live on LinkedIn today. Okay. Wherever you are, subscribe to me at youtube.com/Glamazini. It really helps. And follow me on all the platforms. Okay. Like the video. Like the video if you like weekly videos about Black women healing and creating lives that they love. Amen. Also, a little housekeeping before we begin. The next cohort of my Create Your Life virtual planning retreat starts on June 5th. You can learn more and enroll at bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. The price increases the first of every month, which means this coming Sunday, February 1st, the price goes up. Yay. More on that later. Okay. So I was a little iffy on what to talk about tonight because as we can see, it ain't getting no better. Not that we thought it would. Okay. Not that we thought it would. So I bounced a lot of different ideas around in my head about what today's topic could be. And I landed on this idea of discussing something that I have been learning in my own life with other Black women, offering it to Black women. And that thing is about our wisdom, our capacity, Black women in general, to have wisdom in our pattern recognition. And I want to elevate our ability to trust that more. Elevate our ability to trust that more. Hi, Tamika. Good evening. So, in 2023, I went to have an ADHD evaluation. And in that evaluation, I learned that I don't have ADHD. At least I have a subclinical version of it. I don't have like a diagnosable level, apparently. However, the clinician that did the evaluation sat down with me and shared with me that I have very high IQ numbers. I was unaware that IQ testing was part of what she was doing. It was a lot. And when she came out and told me that, I was kind of perplexed. Anyway, one of the IQ markers, there's four, is perceptive reasoning. It's perception. And I learned in 2023 that I measure higher than the majority of the population on perceptive reasoning, 99th percentile to be exact. And that clinician at the time said to me that um, I have higher perception than most of the population. Now, here's the thing. IQ is a made up number. Okay. Everything we do in our society is a made up number. I'm not putting a whole lot of weight on a man made thing. However, as much as men can measure perceptiveness. Apparently, in the bell curve of life of people that they measure, I'm higher than 99% of the population. The clinician said to me back then, and this is something that freed me, which is why I want to offer this to Black women in general. The clinician said to me back then, you must always feel like you go into spaces, you come up with something that you notice, or a solution, or a thought, or a perception, and nobody else sees it except you. And she said to me that she felt like that experience where I was often perceiving things at a higher level than most people was contributing to my depression back then. And I remember she said, I actually have it recorded because I was recording content. I wasn't aware that this woman was about to drop this big bomb on me. I was just recording content so I could have some voiceover content, and I just kept recording it. So I actually have listened to this since then. She said to me, "Breshna, you think something's wrong with you, but maybe something's not wrong with you. Maybe something is effing right." And I was like, "What?" Anyway, I remember coming off of that call. "Hi, Tracy. Good evening. Greetings, greetings." I remember coming off of that call with that clinician and realizing that she had freed me because what she offered me in the 30 minutes that she took to sit with me and explain to me that I have wisdom in pattern recognition and perception. And instead of letting other people talk me out of it, I should trust it. She freed me. And since then, it's been 2.5 years since that evaluation and that conversation. And I have been teaching myself to trust my innate wisdom, to trust my innate wisdom. And so that's what I thought I would talk to you guys about tonight because I feel like it's a similar gift that I can offer you guys because I wasn't even sure what to talk about. Good evening, Lori. Hi, thank you for my pineapple. Hi, Blue Isis. Hi. Y'all must be icy. I know you guys are. I hope you're not jumping in any stuff. I saw a friend in Kansas City. I have a friend who I met at the Garden of Life brand trip several years ago, and she does a lot of outdoorsy stuff. She's a nudist, she be doing stuff, okay? She went out in her thong bathing suit and jumped into the icy lake. White people behavior. She's also a white woman, so it tracked. Anyway, so today, you guys, I wanna talk about learning to trust your wisdom, Black woman. I wanna give you the same gift that that clinician gave me. See, I knew it. Yup, I'll be doing the polar jump in February. That's see, I knew it. I knew what you was gonna do. I know. I knew what you was gonna do. I know you. Anyway, let's focus. All right. This video is about pattern recognition, perception, and the innate wisdom that I want Black women to elevate in themselves. Okay. When that woman said what she said to me, it unlocked something that I believe was generational, that I had been trained, and I use that word very specifically, I had been trained to ignore. And I have spent 2.5 years teaching myself how to hone in and elevate, make room for, expand my innate perceptiveness because she told me I would have to seek out other people to get intellectual stimulation at the level that I'm on in the perceptiveness category. And there are 4 categories, you guys. I was higher than the population in 3. Okay. It's just the perceptiveness one was 99% out. Okay. So your girl apparently, she started the conversation by saying, she was like, yeah, yeah, you don't have ADHD, but also let's talk about this other stuff. And I was like, wait, what? I was so she was like, you don't have it. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she goes, has anybody ever told you that you're really smart? It was a video call. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I was in like gifted class and stuff when I was a kid, but like whatever. And she was like, no, I mean like smart, smart. Has anybody ever told you? That woman told me it was a pleasure watching me do the exercises in her office. Anyway, that's not what y'all are here for. So let me give y'all the gift, right? This video is not about the fact that 92% of us was right when we voted the way we voted. We're not delusional. We know the system is effed up. Okay. It wasn't perfect, but I promise you, You could go back right now and pull up a clip of at minimum Kamala and at minimum Michelle Obama telling y'all that they was gonna do all of this. Not y'all, because 'cause I'm talking to black women, telling them that they were gonna do all of this, right? So this isn't about us being right. This is to I'm coming in an attempt to give black women the gift of being rooted, to know what you know and to trust it more, okay? If you've been under a rock, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency is out here running tactical missions, killing people in the streets. At this point, they don't even care. Red or yellow, black or white. Boom, boom, cack in their sight. It's ridiculous. Okay. And black women are having to deal with not just the collective gaslighting of an administration in the DOJ and the DHA and the LMNOP from on high telling us things are not what we see in our faces, right? Agendas are coming from left, right, and center, right? But black women specifically not only saw this coming, but we have to sit here and listen to people escalate their horror and shock as though the black people haven't been experiencing this the whole time. I saw a man on TikTok yesterday say, "Oh my God, you guys, one of these days we gonna see a kid. They gonna kill a kid right in front of us." And if you're a non-black person watching this and you're just like, "I don't get it." Yeah, they've killed many black children right in front of us. Michael Brown was not an adult. Tamir Rice was not an adult. These people were not adults. Anyway, Emmett Till was not an adult. So, not only are we watching something that was predictable and that we warned people about happen up in our faces, we also, in the midst of it, have to listen to people elevate white lives yet again. Okay. Hmm. And that's exhausting and that's complex. And that's frustrating. And we don't always have a lot of spaces where somebody's gonna talk our talk, so I'm gonna talk it, okay? It's exhausting. I saw Kev on stage make a video this past week because as a comedian, people like as anything, people like to come in and say, "Stick to your thing. Shut up and dribble," basically. And he made a video, and in the video, he pointed out that white people had co-opted the term "stay woke." And he explained that, as every black person knows, stay woke does not mean whatever they think it means. Okay. As always, they don't understand what the hell we saying and they just over here making stuff up. Stay woke always meant don't sleep on the fact that the system will take you out. Keep your head on a swivel, stay alert, and stay woke. Okay. The system is not created for your benefit or your safety. Don't sleep on that. Wake up. Okay. And so now they coming in and realizing what we meant by stay woke all the time because they was sleeping, right? And that's exhausting and it's ridiculous, right? The other thing that's wild to me is I see people, I saw a video online again of a white man basically being like, "Okay, black people, we get it. You guys are tired. Like, come on now, jump in the fight." I'm trying to understand why you fretting at us when we're doing what you've always done, which is sitting this one out. We're sitting this one out. Okay. I have been befriending a white lady. I know, dangerous in these times, but she's cool. She's real cool people. However, in the wisdom that I have now, breathing on 50 snack, I don't do what the younger version of me would have done, which had been like run up all in the friendship and just totally miss everything. And we have had some interesting conversations over the past few months. It's been it's been over a year, Rashni. Anyway, time is a social construct. I don't know. Okay. And in a recent conversation, I was astonished at how little she knew about what was going on. Granted, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. This was the week that they, ran up in Venezuela and just swooped up the president and ran with him, whatever week that was. That was when I had this conversation with her, and she didn't even know that had happened. Ooh, ooh. So, I think that was also the same week of Renee Good's murder, I believe, because I was in the conversation too. And I remember back then saying to her and her acknowledging that the reason why she pulls away from the information is because of the immense amount of trauma she has experienced in her life, and she has. She shared a lot of stuff with me, and rightfully so. She is traumatized, nervous system shot, okay? And she's just like, "Ah." And I shared with her that the reason you can be so uninformed is because of your skin color. Listen, if you're gonna be my friend right now in 2026 and you don't have the melanin in you, you got to be able to have some hard conversations. And so far, listen, she's been having them. I also shared with her that's a privilege and your ignorance can make put me in danger. And she was like, "I know, I just right." And I was like, "Listen, girl, I understand, and I don't know what it's like to be in your body. I really don't. That has to be complex. I don't know what it is, and I hope you figure out how to do that. I'm not gonna do the labor for you. I'm just telling you how the hell you been out here and they swooping up presidents and you don't know, and they pew pewing women that look like you in the face. We're sitting it out. So they always get the option to sit it out. And now they're mad at us because we're doing the same thing. Okay, let me go on to this. I have notes. I knew, you know what? I'm feeling real pensive. I was cooking a cabbage that was sitting too long in the refrigerator and it was bad and I had to throw it away. And right before this, I was like, do you want to not have your cabbage or do you want to go get fresh cabbage from Aldi, even though you went to Aldi earlier and you could have gotten the cabbage you didn't know because you thought you had cabbage in the fridge? Okay. So your girl jumped up and just ran outside right before this and went and got two cabbages from Aldi and a stick of butter. Okay. A loaf of bread, a stick of butter, and a carton of milk. If you get that reference, it is time for your blood pressure medication, okay? If you get that reference. I ran back up in here and I was like, "You know, Imma take this slow. Imma take this conversation slow because this conversation is about wisdom. This conversation is for Black women, and this conversation deserves the time." So let me talk about what wisdom is, because one of the things I want to impart to Black women listening to me here or on the replay is we are wiser than we realize, right? And people got us second guessing ourselves, and we shouldn't. That's what I wanted to come and do this video, and I hope I'm gonna do it justice. Wisdom is, I looked up the definition, the ability to apply knowledge and experience and a deep understanding when making judgments and navigating situations. It is discernment of the best course of action. It combines intellectual and practical applications with lived experiences and focuses on long term positive outcomes rather than immediate, immature, and passive knowledge. That's what wisdom is, right? A huge part of wisdom is pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is simple, it's seeing a behavior that repeats and anticipating that because it repeated in the past, it's more likely to repeat in the future, right? That is considered inference when you're learning. I'm sure a lot of teachers will understand that, right? That's a huge part of inference. Yeah. Intellectual maturity and being able to infer something. Pattern recognition involves watching things that you know are going to escalate or de escalate predictably. And you can predict them, right? And you can predict them. Pattern recognition also in America involves noticing who is protected in the hierarchy of this system and who is treated as though they are disposable. Okay. So the fact that we feel like we already knew, right? I'm here to teach you how to trust your wisdom is lived intelligence in the body. It's nervous system memory. It's ancestral DNA. It's cultural memory. Okay. It's discernment that we have that we are often taught to ignore, that's shaped by our lived experience, our ability to see things repeat, our ability to predict and to infer at a superior rate, an ability to watch a system and see how who is disposable, who's going to win and who's going to lose. Celeste, I appreciate you. Okay. You got to be a certain generation to understand some of these references. Amen. Here's the thing though. I want to tell black women to start letting that thing expand. Sit in it. Believe it. That knowing that you know in your knower, as evidenced by what we are sitting in right now in this country. Because society, the country, trains us. I was trained. I know a lot of us were trained that we're overreacting. Ooh, that pisses me off. I know I don't seem pissed off. Y'all getting the smooth jazz version. It's because I had to run out and get 2 cabbages and then come in here, chop up I had to throw out a cabbage that I thought I had. I told y'all the story already. Your girl just ran out into the freezing cold to the Aldi for the second time today and then came in here, chopped up a whole cabbage, butter, put a bunch of seasonings in there. Whatever. That's not the video. Focus. And then started cooking it, had to turn it off because I had to come in here. It's a whole thing. And then I have some stuff in the crock pot. It's a whole thing. Okay. We're told we're too emotional when we bring up the stuff. They don't wanna listen to us. You know how exhausting it is to listen to somebody come to an aha moment that you've been done told them? And that is the plight of black people when it comes to white people. That is the plight of women when it comes to men. And that is one of the reasons why black women have such a unique experience because we are at the bottom of 2 of the larger intersectional quadrants in the country. And ain't not a person at the bottom of a hierarchy knows their oppressor better than the oppressor knows itself themselves. Okay, privilege is a prison. And one of the things that happens to go into a hierarchical system is you have to give away some of your concepts of self to earn that privilege. And you look at that with how whiteness got white people confused about what's going on. They don't even know who they are. They got to give up themselves to try to take some of that stuff at the top. And how patriarchy got these men out here like they anyway. Black women have we're told that we're negative when we say it. If you watch any video of Michelle Obama and Kamala saying all this stuff, them suckers took Project 2025 and printed it out and read out of it this stuff. The government will turn the police on you. They said all of this to them. No, we're overreacting. We're too emotional. We're negative, right? But what we actually are, my video is to tell black women what we actually are inherent holders of historical, ancestral, embodied data. We know. We know. We're not guessing. We're remembering something. We're remembering something, right? And that's the whole thing I want to bring up. Wisdom feels like in your body a heavy, calm, clear clarity. The fact that you ain't really surprised because you knew, right? And I hope that this video serves for Black women to not feel alone because I know me myself personally it is annoying AF to swipe online and see somebody. The amount of people I saw a guy doing a tribute to the people who have been killed by ICE of late, recently. It's just I can't even. And he does like pictures in the sand, like, and then he gets a drone shot. And he did Alex Pretty, and I was like, "Oh, that is beautiful." And then he did Renee Good, and I was like, "Oh, that is beautiful." And I sat there waiting to see Keith Porter, And that man finished the video. You know how exhausting that is? In the middle of your outrage, you still don't get it, right? Black women, however, we don't come to our conclusions from nowhere. That's what I wanted to tell you guys. We live our conclusions. We've seen certain things before. We listened to elders that taught us. We know because we learned it. We know because it lives in our bodies, right? We know because we have pattern recognition in our own lived lives and in previous generations, and we're communal. We share that with each other. We know how systems escalate, how they make promises, how there's a hierarchical system and we're typically at the bottom. We're not always at the bottom. There are other intersectional categories, but I'm just saying that the two major categories of race and gender, we have that intersection. And so we have a very unique view, which is why we keep coming to these conclusions and telling people they're going to harm you and they're going to call it something else. They're going to minimize this, that, and the other. Like we just tell them, right? That's wisdom, you guys. And I want you to learn, like I have been learning the past couple years, to pay attention to that, to trust yourself more, even when well meaning or not well meaning, ignorant people surrounding you are telling you they don't see it, right? I want somebody to leave this video and stop second guessing themselves. That's the point. When something feels familiar in your body, you are remembering something. Instead of dismissing that feeling or that knowing because you've been trained by a system that needs you not to know it for your own benefit, right? They need you not to know it because they need to benefit from your ignorance and they need to train you to not listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. Practice listening to yourself, right? Because you're remembering something that you were either told about or something innate inside of you that you already survived. Right? That's why us watching this stuff go on around us, we're just like, "We've been here. We've been here, you guys, and we've been here." You're remembering something. I'm trying to get my notes back. That you've been told to dismiss. You're remembering something that you've sounded the alarm about, right? And that's wisdom. That's pattern recognition. Remember I told you, wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge, experience, and deep understanding, make judgments, navigate situations, and discern what is the best course of action. Trust yourself more, right? One of the outcomes of my experience with the ADHD evaluation is a lot more seeking what I already know internally as opposed to external data to tell me how I'm supposed to feel or think, right? And just sitting with it quietly and steadily and just knowing that I know something. There have been so many things that have happened recently in the news, in the news that I had a experience with before it happened. Before it happened. Okay? For example, last year I was watching Tiki Talks or something, and I saw one of those interview shows where one person is sitting down debating another person. On one side, there was a progressive human person, some white guy, and on the other side, there was a conservative human person, some white guy. This person was somebody Evans, and I think Evans was his name, and this person was Charlie Kirk. I was unaware of either of these people, so I looked them both up. This was earlier 2025. This happens to me all the time, by the way, you guys. I looked both of them up, and I saw that this guy, Evans, was like a progressive podcaster and commentator, and Charlie Kirk was a conservative podcaster and commentator. And I was like, "Bet." And the way that I move through life is I like to think my own thoughts. So instead of t let waiting letting this is before anything happened with Charlie Kirk, okay? And I'm telling you guys, this is not the only time this has happened to me. This happens to me a lot, where I have a personal experience with something that later blows up in the news, and I'm like, "Huh." So, I like to think my own thoughts, you know what I mean? Especially because algorithms are set up to put us in echo chambers. So I'm like, "Let me look up both of these people." So I look up both of these people, and I like to, like, go into the person's content a little bit and, like, listen to a couple, 3 things and see if I could get their vibe. So I did that. I listened to this person, and I was like, "I mean, that's cool or whatever." Like, I kind of agree with what he's saying, the Evans guy, but I wasn't I'm not, like, rushing to go get my information from a white dude, even though I agree with him. Like, I'm not. So, it wasn't something that was mind blowing and I had to, like, add him to my repertoire. It was not. But he was cool, and I just like, "Okay, cool." And then with the Charlie Kirk guy, I was like, "Huh, he's weird. That's weird. Real rigid thinking." I remember thinking, I was like, "I don't agree with him." He was saying something about identity politics, and I remember and he was saying that he doesn't believe in identity politics, or he doesn't believe that you should use identity in politics. You should only have politics about things that are changeable or something like that, right? And I was like, it's always somebody whose identity has never been politicized, flapping their lips about not having identity politics." I was like, it would be a white man whose identity has never been politicized. His blackness, his womanness, his not right? I'm like, what kind of simple thought is that? I remember thinking, this man is a rigid thinking simpleton. And I remember thinking, well, at least I know, boy, they'll give anybody a podcast mic. That was my thought. I like having that kind of wisdom. I like trusting myself. Those are the types of things that I get to, those are the types of experiences that I get to have, right? Because I trust my wisdom and my knowing without external information. So, of course, you could imagine later in the year when the people in pew pew the man, I said, "Oh my God." And my first reaction was horrified. I was horrified because I was like, "Ooh, they out here just pew pewing people all over the place." And I was like, "Oh no, it's the guy, it's the weird guy." But I already knew what I thought without any external information being pumped into my brain, right? And I like it that way. Okay. Now, I wanna have a quick aside because I am not glorifying the concept of hypervigilance, right? I am not encouraging anybody to get stuck, um, and stay locked up in a trauma response or to become paranoid because they feel like they know everything. They don't right? I am not saying that. I am aware I am a very trauma-informed coach, and I am aware that hypervigilance is a real thing, and I am not promoting or glorifying any hypervigilance, right? We as Black women can become hypervigilant because we have to survive systems that are not safe for us, right? However, if it runs unchecked, you can end up with a nervous system that gets stuck on a constant feeling of alert, right? Survival mode, which exhausts you and you're anxious and you're dysregulated, right? That's not wisdom, you guys. I am not promoting that, right? Part of healing is learning how to soften your survival mode over time and regulate your nervous system. I'm not telling you to stay hypervigilant. But 2 things can be true. 2 things can be true. We can learn to trust our embodied wisdom as Black women, and in the same breath, we can learn to process real trauma that we are experiencing in a system where you gotta keep your head on a swivel. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying That's what I'm trying to make a distinction. I'm not telling you to stay paranoid, okay? Stay woke, but get some rest. Stay woke, but get some rest. Stay woke, but laugh. Stay woke, but look for joy. Stay woke, but trust your wisdom and make decisions where you have agency to create a life that you love. That's what I'm saying, right? Our pattern recognition did not come from nowhere. We absolutely earned that pattern recognition from being in systems where we're trying to stay alive and thrive, and the systems weren't built for us to do either of them, right? And a lot of people was looking the other way. That's the other thing. People will be like, how you can, who was it I saw? Someone show, the linguist dude from Harvard who was like, people are like, "How can black people be dancing at a time like this? How could y'all be doing this at a time like what? At a time like what? The times have changed. It's looking like the same time to me." Oh, you mean a time where they're doing it to y'all, they're doing it to non-black people now. Okay. We already learned how to do that. We've been thriving and laughing and living and loving while they're gunning down our people in the streets. Anyway, what I'm here to support is not being on guard all the time, but learning how to trust yourself. Use those signals, metabolize the signals that you've learned to survive this system, metabolize your instincts that you've learned, trust your knowing. You knower, you know your knower, your knower. You might need to turn the volume up on that thing because that thing is true and that is wisdom. Trust your community, right? Learn how to not remain in a state of constant activation by trusting that you know what you know and you have what you need to make this thing happen. I want us to learn how to let our wisdom lead us instead of being gaslit and told that we are constantly overreacting because we are not. And we already know that. It's just they just figuring it out. They're just figuring it out. They're just figuring it out. Okay. I'm looking at my notes. I wrote down why are other people shocked right now and why that's not our job. Privilege is a prison. I told you guys that already. If you look at things in hierarchies, the people who are in the privileged position often have to cut off pieces of themselves to gain access to the privilege. If you look at patriarchy, if you look at white supremacy, if you look at the people who are in the higher part of the privileged position, they have to give up actual knowing of self to have those prizes, right? For Black women, though, there's a difference between living inside of a system that is not created to benefit us and other people benefiting from that system. There's a difference, right? When you live inside of a system like we have, the system has always been unstable. This thing is being held together with gum and toothpicks. Way before a lot of this chaos started, I've been out here raging against the machine, telling y'all the conveyor belt is going to top. Before all of this, I've been telling y'all this thing is the illusion. Listen, the experiment of democracy is a shaky one. And unfortunately, a lot of people are learning that it can be taken away from us. Right? But when you live inside of something that's always been unstable, you develop an awareness of how to survive it early. And that is the experience of Blackness and that is the experience of womanness. You learn the patterns, you learn to assess risk, you learn which risk to take, which not to take. And more importantly, you learn that the higher people are on the hierarchy, the less they have to learn about themselves. Right. That's what you learn. The difference is, and this is why people are shocked all of a sudden now. If you're confused about why they're shocked, I'm trying to tell you. When you benefit from a system, when you're a man in a system that benefits men, when you're a white person, a system that benefits white people, right? When you're in the privileged position of a hierarchy, the system has not been unstable for you. So when it becomes unstable in your tier of the system, you are genuinely surprised. It feels really sudden to you. You are shocked. What is going on? Because the alarms that were being sounded from the people below you, telling you that the foundation was shaky, you had to not hear that. You didn't wanna hear that. You didn't wanna hear that, right? I told you, I'm trying to befriend somebody who told me, I can't," and I'm just like, "That's a privilege. I gotta stay informed so I can make sure that I survive this things. You can go about your business in a red state because 'cause I'm in a red state, right? For now, you could go about your business for now." That's the part I was like, "Girl, for now, it ain't gonna be long though. You might wanna pay attention." And she did. She was like, I might need to pay attention." I was like, "You might need to pay attention." But the reason why they're shocked right now is because the shaking wasn't affecting them, right? So when things start to unravel in a system that was already shaking, that's why they're freaking out, right? We are used to instability and learning how to maneuver within that. They are not. They are not, right? And that's why the shock that they are expressing seems so late for something that seems so obvious for all of us, right? They've never been required to notice it to survive. They're noticing that the system was harming other people was optional. Their safety never depended on it, which is indicative of how much they cared for those that are below them in the system. Pay attention to that, okay? For the people around you. I also wanna, acknowledge how complex the emotion of feeling gaslit might be right now for Black women, because ain't nothing worse than realizing that you've been telling people something for years and you've been asking why they aren't doing more, and you've been trying to come up with all these movements and this, that, and the other, and they just coming around. Didn't listen to a word you said. Didn't listen to a word you said. I'm skipping down on my notes because I feel like I already talked about some of this stuff. Oh, this part I do want to say. The people who are beckoning us to come in. Why are you so calm? How can you dance? How can you sing? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? I saw a Black girl earlier go off. She was on TikTok and she was like, "Oh, somebody came up in my DMs and was like, why aren't you using your platform to this, that, and the other?" When I tell you she read them for filth, and I was like, "Go off, sis," because she was like, "We tired. We been doing this. Okay, I thought it was obvious where I stood, but maybe it's not. So let me just tell you." And she said, listen, it was so funny. And I put in her comments, I was like, "Go off, sis. Okay. We are not disconnected. We are not calm. It doesn't mean we don't care. It means we already know how to surf these big waves." Now, these might be bigger waves than we're used to in our lifetime, but many of us, Black women right now, have ancestors, close ancestors that surf these waves. This is not, people are always like, "It was so long ago." It wasn't that long ago. Okay? There's a picture of Kamala Harris hugging Ruby Bridges. What are you talking about? Our mothers and grandmothers told us this. Okay? So we're not in denial. We just knew it was gonna happen. And we don't owe you our labor. That's the part I want Black women to know. We don't owe you our labor. The fact that you just woke up when we told you to stay woke does not require my exhaustion. Stop trying to saddle up on my back, right? And what I wanna offer to Black women is when you start listening to your knower, it helps you regulate. I know it's hard now, but the shift I want to offer us is, instead of going into the swirl the wash the with everybody else. Calibrate to your wise self. Learn to regulate in the knowing. Activate your discernment and trust it. Practice listening to it more and learn to move forward without carrying everybody else's whatever on your back, which is hard because a lot of us are trained to we listen, we love to save people. We just be gathering them up. Sometimes you just got to let them learn on their own, and that's hard for me. Okay? I'm the captain of Captain Save. Oh, you know who's Captain who, okay? I love to explain to somebody a thing. I had plenty of white friends back in the day where I did all the labor for them, and I thought I was doing something good. Girl, it's not anybody listen, it's 95 days to my 50th birthday. We off that. All right? Now let's talk about grief because, I like to talk about grief. Um, Black women are also grieving. It's complex. Some of us are pissed off, some of us and let me not say some of us as though it's exclusive. You can be pissed off, you can be exhausted, you can be this, you can be that, but you might also be grieving. You know what you might be grieving? Grieving constantly being reminded of this perpetual loss of, let me say this, perpetual loss of relative safety, perceived safety, right? Because were we ever safe? I don't know. Okay. But it feels like less safe right now. Also, grieving the reminder, that's the word I'm looking for. Grieving the reminder that these daggone people don't listen to us. In the Virgin Islands, we say, who don't have gonna feel, right? If you don't listen to what I tell you up front, I'm just gonna let you earn that by experience, right? And so there's a grief in that because constantly being reminded that nobody's listening to you and you just feel like you're screaming into the wind is exhausting, right? And so a lot of Black women right now who I speak to, we're in this collective state of like a lot of complex, mixed up emotions. And one of them is grief. And grief has stages, you guys, right? You can be shocked. I think it's like shock, anger, sadness, awareness, something like that, right? Acceptance. That's the last one, right? And so we're not all in the same stage of grief, but we are all grieving. Yeah. Because this is ridiculous. These people are crazy. These people are crazy. And some of us are grieving and we're going inward. Some of us are grieving and we're choosing to go outward. Some of us are in the street. That's up to you. Some of us are not. All right. Some of us are tired of being surprised. Some people are staying and navigating the United States. Some people are leaving, right? I'm part of the Exodus Summit community. There's a large group of people who are deciding, I don't want to do this. I don't even have to do this. And they're leaving. And all of those things are valid. And none of those things are wrong to me. They are all part of how Black women choose to survive and adapt in this system that often will ask us to absorb every loss, L after L after L. And that's why I don't knock anybody. Well, that's not true. I don't like the Black women who still feel like they gotta have the labor on their back. I really wish they would put that down, but everybody gets to choose, right? So if you're grieving, it makes sense. I just want to normalize that. Sitting it out when you're used to not sitting it out is not always the easiest thing. But this is not our fight. And honestly, they ain't been listening to us anyway. So I mean, what you gonna do? In personal relational dynamics, I often will say stuff like you can move from empathy to enabler. And I feel like I can say a very similar thing with Black women in this current state of affairs. Like we have been so empathetic that a lot of times we may be enabling a shaky system, propping up a shaky system that needs to collapse and be rebuilt without us. I don't know if I got that out right. Sometimes you got to take your hands off of it and let people learn their own lessons like children. That's what I'm trying to say. Like children, even though you looking at them like, "The hell is happening?" Right? So this video is my invitation for you to expand and trust your innate and earned wisdom. That's what I'm trying to get across, right? Expand and earn your innate and earned wisdom. It's about owning your agency. Last week I did a video about agency as an anecdote. You can go back and watch that, right? It's about making choices from your knower instead of from external pressures, obligations, colonized ideas, having people talk you out of stuff. Black women, stop letting people talk you out of stuff. Black women, learn to listen to yourself. You might lead yourself to safety. That's what just came up in my mind, right? Because you knew you were right. Trust that. I'm trying to tell you, I gave you guys the, Evans and Kirk example. That thing happens to me all the time. The lady was like, look, I have this running joke. I have a person who I have this running joke with, and I said, "Man, if" and I've been saying this before the ADHD evaluation and the woman telling me about my perceptive reasoning. So now I just have a reason to understand why it might be happening. I'm always joking around saying, "Man, if I were in the church, I could be a prophet, no problem, okay? I could have an honorarium out the wazoozle. The way that I just be having stuff come in my brain, I be landing on something, then I just sit there and 6 months to a year later, the thing happens right in front of my face, and I'm like, "Hmm, saw that coming." And then I just go with it. And the ADHD lady was like, "It has to be so frustrating for you because you must be exhausted constantly predicting things." And I was like, "I mean, I thought something was wrong with me, which is why I was depressed." And she was like, "Well, nothing's wrong with you. You're right." And I was like, "Thank you for that." And that's why I felt free, and that's why I wanted to come out here and tell you guys that, okay? Nothing's wrong with you. Stop listening to people who don't have the wisdom that you have inside of you. Stop listening to people who don't have the earned and lived experience that you have inside of you. Stop making choices based off of another person's bad inference, Black woman, right? This is about making choices and having agency in your life without proving anything to anybody and requiring fewer explanations to everyone as though they are an authority figure over you. When you learn to trust yourself, I'm telling you this from lived experience, you stop arguing with other people, you start trusting your signals, and you just start creating your life. I have this on my desktop. It's a screenshot. It's called Valid Experience. That's the name of the image. It's an image. Okay. March 13th, 2021, 9:58 PM. The moment I stopped spending any time on anybody telling me my experience isn't valid. Why'd I screenshot that and save it? Because I had to understand that I know what I know. I know what I know. And this was before the evaluation lady said what she said to me. I just knew that I was being run amok all over the place by people who don't know. And valuing their capacity to perceive over my own, and we were both ending up in the ditch. Mm. You don't have to convince anybody of anything before you make a choice to do it. If there's enough information available to the people who want it right now, you don't have to do the work to provide it for them. If they want the information about what's going on in our country right now, people have written books, Black women have started movements. It exists. The internet is a thing. You don't have to do any more labor. If their intention is to know, they will know. They will stop choosing ignorance to be able to stay in their perceived hierarchical position in a place that isn't even honoring their privileged position anymore, right? They get to have ignorance because it kept them safe. It's not even keeping them safe anymore. Stop doing the labor to try to educate people who honestly don't want to know. I think one of the results of this type of practice and work over time is the growth of trust, self-trust, and confidence in yourself. You start to understand that y'all are gonna be sick of me saying this, but you're not. Imma change somebody's life as I change my own, okay? You, Black woman, get to create whatever life you want. You get to choose whatever path you want without anybody else's permission or approval. You don't have to go explain nothing to them. Just learn to trust your knower, make your decisions, go about your business. And the last thing I wanted to share was just to validate again and confirm that you're not crazy. You are not guessing. You were right. What did Kamala say? These motherfuckers are crazy. These people are insane. And they don't learn lessons. Like I said in the verse, now who don't hair gonna feel? How the hell all are you could be so stupid? We're just all sitting back like, really? Y'all really thought this was gonna go a different way. How? The man that was over the operations was out in the streets wearing a coat reminiscent of a Nazi general. Now they got confusion in the ranks. Now they eating themselves. They internal eating themselves because the Alex Preddy guy was every archetype that they say all these years is supposed to be the top of the hierarchy, safety, right? A Christian white man operating in the Second Amendment, legally carrying like in a respectable job that helps the veteran. He was everything that America says is the top of the hierarchy, and you see what they did to him. So now they're in there gobbling each other. It's like a cancer eating itself. And we're all sitting there looking at them like, y'all didn't see that coming? You went to the polls and participated in allowing a far right, authoritarian, ultra nationalist government with a feeble, deteriorating, wannabe dictator, potential PDF file, allegedly. Let me put that out there. Okay. And allowing forcible suppression to the people who oppose them, militarization against American citizens, intense nationalism underneath the guise of Christ? What? Fueled by grievance culture. I have this whole thing about problem solving skills and grievance culture that's been jibbling jimbling around in my brain lately, right? As the root of a lot of problems, right? Rigid thinking, easily and effectively indoctrinated people skipped their tails into the ballot box because they didn't want drag queens reading to children. All while, obviously, making the world exponentially more dangerous for us and for them. They did that in our faces, obviously. And we knew it. That's why you remember, everybody remember right after the election, that famous painting of the Black women drinking their drinks, sitting on the building while we watched it all burn was going around. Remember that? We knew that if we pulled ourselves back because we are the scaffolding, the whole thing was going to come asunder. So I just want to confirm to Black women that your discernment is correct. I want you to practice more listening to yourself. Practice less doubting yourself. If somebody voted for this administration last time, the time before that, or the first time, I don't have any grace for even the early voters. I got smoke for them too on TikTok, and I always tell them, I don't care what they say, "I changed my mind." I don't care what you change your mind. You make bad decisions, okay? You're the reason why therapists have clients. You what you tell me is you make bad decisions because I remember thinking it was wild work back then. So your perception is janky. You make bad decisions that harm other people because you think that the harm won't come your way, and you told me that the first time. If you are surrounded by people that voted that way, I have people that I know who voted that way in the whole, like, Black evangelical space, never had good outcomes in their lives. I've put a lot of space between me and them, okay? Don't doubt yourself. You're wise and you knew. Trust that wisdom, practice trusting that wisdom, use that trusted wisdom and innate knowing to make your next decision and to decide what you're gonna do next. Right? I wrote down here, what do you do with all this wisdom, Rushni? You choose where you put your attention. You choose when you are going to engage in something. You choose when you are going to disengage. You get to choose what is urgent to you and what is not urgent. It don't matter if a white person tells you that it's urgent right now. It might not be urgent to you. It wasn't urgent to y'all. You know, I'm a huge proponent of small things you haven't tried. You get to also choose small acts in your own life that influence your outcomes, which is agency. I told you guys about that last week, right? And those outcomes don't always have to be as part of the resistance to what's going on, although you can make those choices too. But remember that life is to be lived. This is your life, your one lived life, right? You get to choose to take on fewer things. You may choose to redirect your life entirely. You could choose to ignore obligations for your labor or requests for you to come in and fix something, or you could leave. I mean, that is a valid choice as well. That's what you do with all this knowing, what you do with all this wisdom. If you're here and you're still going to be here, you can choose to show up in the mix if you want to, if that's what you feel, or you choose to do your part the way that your part is to be done, right? I find that I like to create spaces that feel safe for Black women. I also like to put words to things that we are feeling, but we may not always get to hear from our perspective, represent our voices and how we're feeling. I also like to goof off on the internet and dance and sing, okay? All of those things are the ways that I am showing up. I'm challenging people in my lived life. Like I said, the friend who's choosing ignorance, and I'm like, but you don't get to choose ignorance and still be around me. If you want to be around me, you're gonna have to choose some understanding of what's going on around you. Okay. Anyway, hopefully I got the message out to some Black women that her knower is more powerful than she is giving it credit for. That you don't have to prove your discernment to anyone else. That you have been trained to not trust yourself in systems that benefit from you not trusting yourself, and you may want to change that. And when you change that, don't use that wisdom to only benefit others. Use it to benefit yourself as well and create a life that you love, that wildly loves you back. That's it. That's what I want to talk to you guys about. Yay! Next cohort of my Create Your Life virtual planning retreat is starting on June the 5th. Put my little fancy banner up. The virtual planning retreat is the June one is a week of self-paced modules where we come up with a plan based off of answering the question, "Who am I?" And at the end, every woman that participates has a unique plan that they can execute their next season with. The June cohort gets 9 monthly accountability calls to support you, to help you create the life and to work the plan that you came up with. All right. You can learn more and you can enroll at bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. The price goes up on the 1st of every single month, which means it goes up this Sunday. So this is the lowest the June retreat will ever be. If you're on the wait list, I sent you a coupon code. You can use that coupon code at any time. The current wait list right now is the lowest it will ever be. So if you're planning on doing it, get in where you fit in. The ladies who did the December retreat, hello, you guys. Our second co-working call is actually on February 8th, which is also apparently Super Bowl Sunday, you guys, but I think we'll be able to make it happen because the timing is earlier in the day. So I'm still gonna keep it on the calendar and we're gonna make it work. I will be there. If you show up, good for us. Our second accountability call is the following Sunday on February 15th. Amen. If you are a person that wants to work with me and you don't wanna do it in a group setting, I also offer group, one-on-one coaching, you guys. You can find out more about that at glamazini.com, and you can also find the planning retreat there. I hope that I got this across. My brain was like, "What do you talk about tonight?" And that's what I wanna talk about. Use your wisdom, Black women. Trust yourself and create your life anyway. Be well, you guys. Be encouraged. Here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all. I'm about to go out there and finish this cabbage that I started with this Aldi debacle. Bye, you guys.